Hi everyone, welcome back. So I just wanted to check back in with you all. On the last video I was showing you how to get the hexagon cardigan started, but in the mosaic stitch. So on this side I've just got to the stage now where the arms are the width that I want and I don't want them to go any wider, so I've attached the clothes clips that were discussed with you, but you can use clothes pegs, any will do, same effect. So now I've got to this stage, I'm going to just check back in with you guys and show you how I did that on the other half. So get all your materials together and we'll get cracking. So this is the smaller side of the hexagon. So I've made sure that I've got my right side and this is my left. Put them both together so you know that which is going to be the back, which is going to be the front. And then what you need to do now that that arm is the width that I want it, I don't want it going any wider, so I don't want the arm the same size as I do the body. So to stop that happening, pop one of your clips on the back there, which will be at the back of the neck, and then pop another one at the beginning of the collarbone, so that you've got either side there, which just means that you will start your crochet now from here and you will follow that all the way around, right the way around here, around that side and up the front side, and you will end here. Then what you'll do is you'll do one cluster in that corner because you're not taking it round this way. So you will get to here, you'll probably do a cluster, and then on the next row you'll do a chain 3 turn. So for this one now, I would put a cluster in there of 3, then I would chain 3, turn your work, and then you're starting on that side. Okay, so this is what I'm going to take you through now so that you get the gist of this, to carry that pattern on, but on the other side, on the wrong side of your work. So just get all your materials together now, your crochet hook, get those pegs on there. If you've not got any of these little clips, clothes pegs will do just fine, and I'll meet you at the beginning. My last stitch before I put the clothes pegs in is here at the back, so this is at the neck, which is where I'm going to start. If your stitch is here, it's fine, you can still do that, but just watch how I work it. So the first row that I'm going to be doing will be normal, so carry that round. I'll do that first little bit with you just to begin. So I'm starting here in the corner and I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and I'm going to do 2 more double crochet into that space. So that's your first cluster. Now we're going over to this, the next one. I'm not leaving any stitches in between like I didn't on the last lot, on the last video that I shared with you. Now we've got a mosaic stitch, so yarn over twice, so you've got 3 loops on your hook and drop down to that one below. I'm sure you've got the hang of this by now. Pull up through the first 2 loops, through the second 2 loops and through the final 2, and then 1 double crochet back into that same row, into that same stitch, sorry. Over to the next, double crochet, yarn over twice, and we're dropping down to this one here. And all we're going to do now is just carry this right the way back round until you're at the front where that other marker is, that other clothes peg, which will tell you to stop, so that you don't follow that round onto the arms, because you don't want those arms going any bigger now. You want to leave them alone until we're further on in the project. Okay, so I just want you to carry that all the way round now. So I'll show you where I am. I'm here at the back and I'm going to be working all the way around to here, which I will then do the clusters as usual and follow that right the way around. So you're then coming up the front and you're at this point. I'll meet you back there, don't go any further from there. Right guys, I'm back to this corner now, and you've just got to bear in mind before you put your stitch in there. See, I'm here now, and before you go into there, just remember what you started with on this side. So I've started with a cluster of 3, so I want you to end on a cluster of 3 and then turn your work, and you'll start with a chain 3 and then over to the next, and that's how it'll do on a continuous row. Now the other thing I just wanted to include, if you're not like me and you're not working both sides at the same time, and say you've just completed one and you need to start now because you've got your arm the width that you want, count these. It's just a nice easy way of keeping track of each row. So 1 being your very beginning circle and where your hexagon began. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17 rows to get this to the size that I want it for that arm to stop. So long as you know that you've got that on one, you do exactly the same on the other to make sure it's evens. I tend to try and work one and then work the other more or less at the same time, because I do tend to chain quite tightly anyway, but it's just a way of keeping your work really on top of it where it's evening out on both, so both, you know, they're pretty identical, which is what we want. So yeah, I'll just go ahead now and finish there. Like I said, bear in mind your little stitch markers there, so that's how I know that would then take me to the arms, which I don't want. So we're just going to follow this round, and we're going to do a cluster of 3 in there because that's what we started with on the opposite side. Oh, excuse me, I've just gone into a chain. Okay, so I then chain 1 and that is our turn. Okay, so now we're going to be working back down, so this is the front again, but from the back side of the work. So all I do here, I don't do 4 because I don't like the holes being too big, so I just do a chain 3 and then I move along to the next. Now it might seem like that's going to drag your work over because the stitch isn't going to be big enough to then go over, so a lot of people would do a chain 4 there. I don't, because as you come round to the next row and you're going to be doing a cluster of 3 in there, it evens itself out. It just means that the hole's not quite as big as what it would normally be, which again is what I want. So we're going over to this one now. Again, we're on the back side of our work, so I want you to do 1 double crochet. American terminology, so apologies for the Brits out there. Right, so now to keep up with that mosaic, I need you to chain 2 like we always would. Right, put your thumb there so you know which stitch you're coming into. Okay, and I'm going to be going into that middle stitch, which is here. Okay, there. So on the other side, okay, it will be this one. So just remember, middle stitch always, but instead of going underneath it like we have been doing previously, we're going into the back of it. Okay, so again, push that down there and you're going into the back. Okay, pull your loop through, but keep that tension loose so that you've got enough room to pull it up at the same time. Sorry, it's quite difficult to show you on camera. Through 2 and through 2 more, and then finish with 1 double crochet into that same space, and I'll just show you what it looks like. Okay, so if I just turn that back round now, that's the mosaic stitch that you've just done in that 3. Now, it seems to look like a little bit looser when you do it that way, but trust me, as your work grows and you come up to the next row where you're working into it as normal, it just all blends back in. But I'll keep showing you. Once you've got the hang of it where it's supposed to be, you'll be absolutely fine. It's just on them first beginning rows it feels a bit awkward because you're used to doing it the other way. So double crochet. Again, I don't chain any to get me over to this, I just go straight for it. Round and round again, so you've got 3 loops on your hook. Push that stitch. See, on here you're just going straight under there like you would on the rest because it's already raised for you. It's just on them beginning corners where you've got the first one that you've got to put in that's adding to it. That's the one where you've got to sort of put your thumb at the back of it and stick it out so you can get your hook behind it. Okay, so now I'll turn it again so you can see again. So we've gone into the bottom of this one now, which makes it a lot easier. It's just that when you begin a row, you'll always have that first one, which will be that one on probably the next row. You'll always have that first one that's awkward. But after that, you're just going into these from previous. It's just that you're doing it the opposite way. A bit like front row and back post double crochet, if you like. Except you're doing it with the yarn over twice rather than just once. So yarn over twice and you're going into this one down here there. So let me show you. It's so difficult to get it on camera. 1 and 2, and then you're going into this one here. Grab your yarn, pull it through nice and loose, don't want it too tight. Through them 2, through them 2, through the last 2, and then 1 double crochet. So it's basically just the opposite of what you've already been doing. Double crochet, yarn over once, yarn over twice, sorry, 1, 2, and then under that one, under the stitch below. Just keep a good eye on it to make sure that you're not going through any stitches that you shouldn't be going through, like the one next to it or whatever, otherwise it'll stand out like a sore thumb. It's a lot easier when you're doing it yourself because you can pull your work up to actually see at the back of there, but because I'm trying to do it on camera for you, it just makes it a little bit more difficult to show you. And now, because you know which sides are going to be your left and your right, and you know which is going to be your front and your back, once you've got the size that you want that's going to fit your body, stop your work and mark off with them same little stitch markers, or you know, whatever you've got to hand, just to make sure that you can put a marker in place. And you want an extra row on either side depending on your yarn. I mean, my yarn, it's not super chunky, so I'm only going to do 1 row in each, just to give it that slight back panel. I don't like these great big square back panels. It just doesn't appeal to me, so I just keep it the same with the stitches, but just do 1 row on each side. So if I just pull that back, I'll show you what I mean. Bear with me, I'm just working round and trying not to lose my stitch. Right, so for example now, if this is your front and that's your back, once this is the size that you want it, forget about the arm because you're not working that right now. You will want an extra row, so wherever you are, if you finish here at the front, fine, cut your yarn, tie a knot in it, but then you've got to do 1 extra row from that corner right the way down to that corner. Now you could, depending on what size you are, I'm sort of a 12 to a 14, so I just do the 1. If you're a little bit larger in the back or around the shoulders, you might need 2 on each side. It's entirely up to you. Again, it's personal preference, so I'll leave that up to you to decide, but just make sure that you put at least 1, because otherwise everybody has got extra room at the top. So if this pulls too tight, it flicks that back corner out, so it'll go like that. Doesn't do it on everybody, I suppose. Again, it depends on your size, but if you are slightly larger in the back or even around the bust, it will drag that work out. So like I said, bear it in mind. Right, so I'm just going to keep going now with that until I get round to that very beginning chain where we began at first. I hope I'm making sense to you, but if you do have any questions, then by all means leave me a message below and I will do my best to get in touch with you. Like I say, I'm not a professional, I'm just a lady that likes to crochet and work things out in my own way, and that's why I'm sharing, because I get asked all the time. When you first begin, it does feel really awkward, but it does make sense once you've got the work in front of you and you've began. I know in the video I was telling you about where I have the chains in the corners, and that sometimes you can add chains if your work's a bit too tight, but I only add 1. But sometimes I can change that depending on what the yarn's like. I can change and go to 2, but for this one that I'm working on, the only place I've put a chain 1 is in those corners, nowhere else. once I've done those back sections for the back panel, that is when I then go ahead and attach the work. And the next thing I'll tackle from then on, once the two sides are both attached to one another, that's when I begin the hood. I'm just going to keep going with you now until I get to that corner so you can see what I do there. Like I say, we're not far off. It can be quite time consuming depending on how quickly you work as well, because obviously your work's getting bigger and bigger each row you go. Nice and easy when you first start. So this is the one before the corner, the one that's never got a mosaic in, so you've got to go ahead and do that. You're going for that middle stitch there. Go through, pull your yarn through, she says. I'll drop one there. Hang on. See, even for me it's awkward and I know what I'm doing. There. Got you. Pull it up, pull through two, pull through two, pull through two more. And then back in for a double crochet. Okay, now we're in the corner, so we'll just normal cluster of 3. Chain 1 and another cluster of 3. It is easy, it just takes a little bit of practice, that's all. Okay, then you carry on up the back now. So let's just turn over to the other side, right side, and I'll show you what you've just worked. And that's it. So even though it may appear that your work is a touch looser, once you come to your next row, you'll never notice. See, looks exactly the same. Right, so continue on with that, and I'll meet you once we've got both sides exactly the same. Make sure they fit first before you start attaching them. And one thing I always make sure, don't attach them when you're tired, because you'll end up with one going one way and the other upside down. I've seen people do that all the time. Thankfully I've not done that myself yet, but it's there, so just bear that in mind when it does come to attaching. And then from there we'll work on the hood and I'll show you how we go from that. Good luck. So I've just got to the stage now where both of my hexagons are completely matching, apart from the colours obviously, but they're exactly the same on size, same amount of rows, and they're just getting to the stage now where I need to do the back panel and I need to join them together, and from there we'll add on the hood. So let's get to it. So here's one side of my hexagon. I just wanted to show you how many rows I've done. So do you remember back at the beginning where I said you could count from here and go all the way along there, which is what I've done. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 rows exactly with the hexagon going round. And then right here on the top, when I said to you when you did that first row to pop in that little marker there, which is what I did, and I've done that exactly the same on both sides. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows going along here, and that's where I did just around the body, around the bottom and back up on the back, and I missed the arm out because remember I wanted to make that arm smaller or not quite as wide as I did this. So I've got to this stage now where both sides are exactly the same size, which is what I said before, but I need to add 1 row for that back panel. So here was where my row ended, so I've tied that off because this is going to be the left and the other, which I've got here, is the right. So what I've done, I've laid them both on the floor so you can see which one's going to be which side. And on the back panel where I'm going to be working next, I've popped in a stitch marker, so I know that this is the back and I know that this is the back. And then once I've done those 2 rows, one on each side, I'll then join them up the middle. So that's what we're going to do now. So this is the first, well, the only row I'm going to be doing on the right side back panel. And I've started with a chain 3 and I've come over to the next. Unfortunately, I'm working into the back side, so it's a little bit awkward, but it's just for 1 row. So let's get cracking with that. And then we'll tie off and we'll do the other side. So carry on with this until you get to the very end, very bottom, or should I say into that next corner. Not going around the corner, so once you've done this 1 single row, tie off. Ignore that stitch marker because that's just telling you that you're working into the back panel. Okay. So now we've worked that one row into that back panel, we'll cut off and we'll do the exact same on the next side. Alright, so this is the back panel for the next side, and this one you're working the right way round. So I've tied off because it ended the last time on the opposite side. This is the back panel, there's the stitch marker that I've put in to tell me it is. So I've just attached my yarn with a little knot, and I'm going to work along that right the way down to that corner there, and then we'll be attaching both sides together. So I began with a chain 3 and we're jumping straight over to this chain space there. Stitch marker again, ignore it because it's just telling you that you're working into the back side of the panel. Have you decided yet whether you want to do a sweater or a cardigan? I'm still a bit undecided, so if you've got a preference that you'd prefer me to do along with you, then please do leave your comments below and I will tally them all up. We'll have a vote, and whoever's got the most votes, we'll go with that. So sweater or cardigan, it's up to you guys. I know you might be getting to the stage where you're thinking, yay, we've got both sides of the panels done, we're starting to attach, the cardigan is nearly done. Well, it's not. We've got quite a way to go yet, so please do stick with me and we will do it together. Okay, tie off. Okay, so that's both back panels now complete. So we need to get them all together, get all your materials, darning needle, scissors, yarn, and let's get attaching. Is where you will attach. So if I just flick this back here, you've got each back panel there where I've put your markers. Now you need to sew it. Everybody's got their own ways. I absolutely hate sewing, so I just do as best as I can, try and get it as neat as you can, sew these two sides together all the way down to the bottom. But then I want you to bear in mind that you need to sew along the top of your arm there. Okay, now you can use your stitch markers or whatever just to hold them together, sew them all the way along, but remember that back you've done one extra row on both sides. Okay, so when you come to attach here, attach it one row back there, because I don't want you to pull your work and it be out of line. So only attach to that one section back. Don't pull the front all the way to the back, all the way to the front there and attach, because it's not long enough. So just keep it to that one row back, and the same on that side, so you've got that panel there. I hope that makes sense, guys. Let's get attaching. So I'm no seamstress, I've just knotted it on. These are just the little tails that are left from when we started finishing our work, so don't worry too much about these. Just try and make them joins as neat as possible. I mean, with my work it's actually a little bit difficult here because both sides are finished on different colours, so when it's like that it's near on impossible to try and get it to match up. So I just go back and forth with my work. And so it's the only thing about making these cardigans that just drive me mad because I hate sewing. If you've got your own way, then you do it your way. Like I've said all along, just because it's my way doesn't mean it has to be your way. So I don't tend to pull too tight either, but every now and then I just sort of do a row back and then go a little bit further, like this. That's as long as you're sewing it on the inside and it won't be visible, you'll be fine. Okay. And just keep going with that all the way down. If you pull it too tight, it makes your work a bit more wrinkled up, so try not to pull too tight if you can. It's the first time I've used these needles and they're a bit rubbish actually. I'm going to go back to my metal ones, I think. I can feel them catching through the work, and that is not what I want. Keep you humming that until you get to the end. I'm sure you get the gist of what I'm doing. Okay, we're getting near to that end now. I always put one of these in right at the end. It just stops your work coming out of line. Makes it a bit easier for me. Once you get through to that bottom bit, just knot it and cut it, and we'll carry on and work our way up the arms and the shoulders. So don't worry too much about any tails being left, because we have got quite a bit more to do yet, and we'll be able to weave them in once we start with our other stitches. So once we've done the shoulders and arms, we'll work on the hood, and then as we progress we'll add some more length to the cardigan as well. Okay, and that is where we've just sewn, and if I don't say so myself, I think it looks okay. Yeah. So you can see now where I've attached at the back, which is here. See where our stitch markers were, still looking quite nice and neat there too, if I don't say so myself. So what we need to do now, I'll just pull this back here, is we need to sew along here. So pop your markers on, make sure it's all in line. Remember to keep one back on that row there, because you've got an extra row that we added in for the back panel. So we will start just slightly back from there, about there. So get your yarn on your needle again and let's get going. Don't worry too much if you start to see this looking a bit out of line with that, because we're attaching everything, and as of yet we haven't added any length on or anything to give it any rigidity really. So don't panic too much if it's looking a little bit out of shape just at this point. As long as you've attached and you've got that in a nice line, it's all lined up well, don't worry too much. So where I'm going to start now is about there. I'm going to turn that inside out, because we want any stitching to be on the inside and not on the outside of the cardigan, which means we will be starting around here, just a touch back from where we want, about there. So I'll just get my needle threaded. So I've turned the work inside out just to make it a little bit easier, and I've popped my stitch markers in and the clip to the end there just to hold it in place while I work my way down. I've knotted on here and I'm going to work my way all the way down. Now if you look, I've got a gap here, that's the middle, and that's where I'm starting from. So make sure you don't forget that, it's an important step. So now I'm just going to do pretty much what I've just done to the back to attach both sides. I'm just going to work my way down, and once I've done that and I've got down to the bottom, I'll then go along and do that on the other arm as well. And so you've got them double crochets to deal with here, so make sure that you do get that needle through them. Make sure they're nice and secure. And this is why I turn the work inside out, to make sure that those stitches are on the inside of your cardigan or your sweater, whichever you want to do. I mean, some people choose not to use a needle and thread and they'll slip stitch down. If that's your preferred method, then you go for it. You do you, I'll do me, and we should have something similar at the end. So I've done that big stitch there because there was a double crochet and I couldn't quite get into it. Again, it's on the inside of the work, so it's no big deal. Once I've sewn both sides together and I turn the work the right way round, I'll show you what it looks like then. And again, I would suggest that you don't do this tired, because if you are tired, chances are you'll cock it up and then you'll end up trying to unpick where you've sewn. I've seen it done. I've not done it myself yet, touch wood, but I have seen it done. If you're tired, mistakes happen. Okay, just keep going with that all the way to the end. Once you get there, tie off and do the exact same thing on the other side, and I'll meet you back there. So I finished attaching the arms together, and just quickly, while you've got your cardigan inside out, just go back to that little ring that we made at the very start of the project, and the tail, which I told you to leave out, just pop that on your needle and just thread it through there and pop a knot in it, just to make sure that maybe a year down the line it doesn't start to unravel or become looser. That will just give it that sturdiness, and then that definitely won't reopen. So here's your cardigan now attached. It's all sewn together down here, down the back. It's looking a little bit wavy, but nothing too drastic right now. It's just as it starts to grow, it starts to really take more and more shape now. But yeah, so far so good. Right, so we've got to an important part now in our hexagon cardigan. We have attached the two hexagons together. This is the seam, and we have sewn the arm spaces up, and this is around the neck area. So what I want to show you now is how I go about making a hood, and I do that on the cardigan, attached to the cardigan. So hopefully you're with me here and you can see exactly what I'm doing. So the way I tend to do it, you can either pop it on and put a stitch marker where you would like your hood to begin. So the way I normally do it, because I've done a few now, so I can tend to gauge it without having it on in front of a mirror, but I go off these. Okay, so from the top there, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Right, and then I pop a stitch marker in there at 7. And then what you want to do is exactly the same thing on the opposite side. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and I pop a stitch marker in there. Now you can see that side by side they're in identical places, identical stitch markers. So what I will do now, I will start my hood, and I'll start here, and I'll be going up and then turning and round here, and then bringing this back round and ending there. Then I'll probably chain 3, turn my work, and I will go all the way back. So I'm just going to start at that point now and work it with you. Now when you're doing the normal granny hexagon, this is super easy. It's just getting your stitches in where you can. With the mosaic, it's a little bit different, because you've kind of got to, this part is super easy, but then you've got to think about this part, because you haven't got a mosaic here. Okay, it's going this way instead of that way. So you've kind of got to start again with your double crochets along here, and then it's on the following rows that you can then begin a mosaic. But it still works out beautifully without any issues. I've never had one yet that I've done that hasn't turned out looking fabulous. So don't panic too much, just follow along with me as best as you can. If your work looks slightly different, then just think about where you're popping that stitch in, so that you can go on to a mosaic stitch on the following row. So get your markers in, work out on you where you want your hood to begin and end, and we'll take it from there.